Liam and Harper tied the knot of marriage 2 years ago. This was Harper's second marriage. The first one lasted only a year and was consummated at a young age when she was still finishing her studies at the institute. However, the relationship between Liam and Harper developed rapidly. From the very beginning, Liam made it clear that he could be relied upon. He was an honest and straightforward person, without any hidden secrets or unexpected affairs. They led a quiet and harmonious life, without quarrels or conflicts. One early fall afternoon, the couple decided to take a walk in the Central Park on their day off. They walked leisurely past the still working rides, watching the children playing with their parents. Suddenly, Harper flinched, froze in place, and stared ahead. "Is something wrong, Harper?" her concerned husband asked. "Oh, it's nothing much. Let's just go down that path over there," replied the wife languidly, pointing to a parallel path. Just as they were about to change paths, a tall man approached them and exclaimed, "Harper, hi, long time no see." Liam looked at the man in surprise. He was in great shape, and his confident smile and straight posture said he was confident. Standing next to him was a petite, blonde-haired girl in her early 20s who seemed eager to be noticed. Harper quickly greeted the man, lowering her gaze. As they stood side by side, she furtively glanced at her young companion. After the man proudly stated that he and the stunning woman had many more plans together, he bid farewell. As the unusual couple departed, Liam inquired as to who they were. His wife grudgingly replied, "That's Ethan, my ex-husband." From that moment on, Harper's mood plummeted. For the rest of the walk, she was silent and deep in thought. Sensing her distress, her husband realized it was time to take her home. Despite his attempts to lighten the mood with a joke about jealousy, Harper remained silent and stared at him. She couldn't admit how much it hurt her to see her ex-husband with a new, young, and beautiful partner. After this encounter, their once stable life had turned into chaos. Harper began to be late for work, something previously attributed only to her husband. She also became increasingly irritable. One day, Liam came home and found his wife missing. About 10 minutes later, Harper returned, chatting on the phone and oblivious to her husband's presence. Engrossed in the conversation, she didn't notice him until he pointed out her absent-mindedness. She shared with her friend her disappointment that her ex-husband looked better after so many years accompanied by a woman who annoyed her. Realizing that her husband could hear and was disappointed, Harper said goodbye to her friend and ended the conversation. "Eavesdropping is not a good habit, as you must have heard by now," she said with irritation. Liam decided not to escalate the situation and refrained from further questions. He supposed that her anxiety wasn't due to jealousy of her ex-husband, but rather a reflection of her disappointment in herself compared to his new lover. Such is the complex nature of women. She unconsciously began to compare herself to the model-like girl she had spotted. In the weeks that followed, his wife began coming home later and later, becoming increasingly unsociable. Despite Liam's attempts to engage her in conversation and understand her behavior, she remained evasive. He feared she had become completely withdrawn. In an attempt to cheer her up, he planned a romantic evening for her. He came home early from work, bought flowers, wine, and arranged for dinner for two when she arrived. Without knowing it, Harper already had other plans for the evening. He waited anxiously for her, worried that she wouldn't return. When he tried to contact her, she didn't answer her cell phone. Finally, when she returned, Liam met her in the hallway. He immediately smelled the odor of alcohol on her breath. "Where have you been?" her husband asked, stepping back slightly. "Nothing much, just met a friend for a chat. I need to freshen up," she replied hastily, trying to slip past him into the room. Sensing something amiss, her husband grabbed her arm and noticed faint marks on her wrists. as if they had recently been bandaged with something. "What is it?" he shouted. Harper looked away, remembering their past conversations. In their conversation, they had playfully discussed their knot-tying experiments. "You mentioned that you've tried that before, even had a little knowledge of knots. Who did you do it with?" asked Liam, trying to remember their previous conversations. "Never mind, it was with an ex," she replied. A couple times she'd even suggested she try it with Liam, but he'd always found it weird and dismissed the idea. At that moment, standing in the hallway, Liam realized exactly which ex Harper was referring to. It was a name that had been mentioned too often in their house since that chance encounter in the park. Harper looked uncertain. Her husband pressed her with direct questions, not allowing her to deviate from the topic. Eventually, he managed to get a confession. She had spent the evening with her ex-husband. "I don't need anything else," Liam said, his voice full of anger. "Pack your things and get out of my house." The woman didn't argue and obediently went to get her suitcase. The encounter with her ex-husband had sent a strong wave of jealousy through Harper. After the breakup, she desperately wanted to forget about Ethan. When she met Liam, she managed to distract herself for a while, almost forgetting about her ex-husband. However, the sight of his new partner instantly brought her emotions back. All this time she had been trying to regain his attention and mend the relationship, and his small gesture had completely stunned her. She wanted it for herself, and Ethan was honored to have her back after such a long break. Surprisingly, she even continued her relationship with her ex, despite her current husband's betrayal. However, after his divorce from Harper, Ethan was no longer interested in settling down with the woman. They dated a few more times, but gradually he made it clear that he had no intention of having a serious relationship. To him, it was all just a fluke. Harper's mistake was taking their encounters so seriously. Years had passed. She had gone through 2 failed marriages and had never found happiness in a relationship. Had she engaged in self-reflection and eliminated the emotional attachment to her first spouse, things might have turned out differently. Her second marriage was strong and her partner supported and loved her. However, she was unable to let go of her past, which prevented the new relationship from growing into a stable family. Unfortunately, it took years and ruined lives for her to finally realize this simple truth.